I'm using a variety of sizes of popsicle sticks to make mini birdhouses. For my first birdhouse, I'm using a standard size popsicle stick. I'm making a dot in the middle and drawing 2 lines to it to create a little point. I'm using scissors to cut along the lines to make a shallow peaked roof. I trimmed about 1 inch below the peak, and now I'm tracing it and cutting it out again to make the back of the birdhouse. Cutting straight across the stick makes it easier to trim the 2 small angles. I'm tracing the height of each side and cutting those out of a popsicle stick as well. For my next birdhouse, I'm cutting about a 45-degree angle in a medium-sized popsicle stick. This piece is the front of the birdhouse, so there will be a tall wall and a short wall. I cut out another asymmetrical piece, so now I have a front, back, and 2 sides. Using the same size stick, I'm sketching the shape of an asymmetrical house for the next one. The scissors were splintering the wood for some of the cuts, so I switched to my miter shears. You can also cut the pieces using a craft knife and making multiple shallow passes. I traced the shape, so now I have a front, back, a taller side, and a shorter side. I think this may be my favorite shaped one of all. I traced out the shape of a triangle and started using my scissors to cut it. The first cut went well, but the second cut left a bunch of cracks. Despite the clear warning signs, I still cut across the bottom with the scissors and ended up with this splintery mess. I drew a new triangle and cut the shapes out using my miter shears. This is an unconventional shape, but it still has 2 side pieces. One of the popsicle stick pieces is slightly shorter, so they don't touch or overlap. The roof will cover this mess. I love searching for references online and came across this cutie. To make a simple pattern without measuring, I cut a piece of paper at the width of the popsicle stick and folded it in half both directions. Now I know the center point and can make a roof line. To easily make a symmetrical paper pattern, I'm cutting the roof line, refolding the piece of paper, and tracing it onto the other side. The 2 sidewalls are slightly angled in, so I'm cutting a skinny triangle, folding it, and cutting the shape on the other side. This isn't a shape I would have come up with on my own, so I'd suggest using an image search to get inspiration. I use reference images for most of the miniatures I make. I copied the height of each of the angled walls to make the side pieces. To make sure the front and back pieces are the same size, I'm sanding them together. You can sand the edges using an emery board, a metal file, or sandpaper. Our little birds need a way to get inside of the birdhouses. I'm usually not a stickler for precision, but on such a small birdhouse, an off-center hole would look goofy, so I'm centering it using my paper template. If you don't make paper templates for your birdhouse, you can draw some guiding lines. You can paint your birdhouses and use a Sharpie to create your holes, cut out a black piece of paper, or do what I'm doing and use a drill. I'm cleaning up the splintery hole using one of my cheap files from Harbor Freight and an emery board. For some more easy detail, I'm using a pin vise to drill a small hole below the big hole. I'll add a perch here later. I really like the look of tall, skinny birdhouses with multiple entry points. This has 2 holes, but I'd love to make a bigger birdhouse with 3 or 5 holes. To visualize your hole placement before drilling, you can always draw it. For the asymmetrical house, the door will be below the peak of the roof. Now that all the pieces are sanded and the fronts are prepared, we can add the sides. This is personal preference, but I don't want to see the end of the cut stick, so I'll be gluing it behind the front. Using some wood glue, I'm attaching each of the side pieces, standing it upright on my table. While the glue is still wet, I'm attaching the front piece and repositioning everything so it's nice and square. Once a birdhouse is glued, I scoot it off to the side of my table. For the A-frame birdhouse, I'm attaching the long side while it's laying up against the table. I'm attaching the short side, leaving a gap at the top and bottom. These are the pieces the roof will stick to eventually, so you won't see these. My half-assed method of construction leaves the edges a bit wonky, so I'm cleaning that up with some more sanding. I used a combination of flat sandpaper on my desk and an emery board. All of my birdhouses have pale walls behind their holes, so I'm painting the back black. A larger birdhouse can effectively cast its own shadows and look dark inside, but since these are so little, they need a little bit of help. I already love how these are looking, and they're not even painted yet, so let's do that. This asymmetrical house gives me retro vibes, so I'm painting it this cinnamon color. I have pretty limited paint colors, so I had to mix some of my own. Some of them were pretty funky and vibrant, so I did go over with a second coat and make them a little more subdued. For the purchase, I'm using some pin scraps I keep in a magnetic mechanics dish. I don't want these tiny pieces of pin ever falling out, so I'm securing them from the back with super glue and baking soda. The baking soda instantly hardens the super glue and creates a crusty plug on the inside that makes it impossible to pull out these perches. You could paint them brown so they look like little sticks, but I like the contrast of black. I'm using regular acrylic paint and these will be sealed later. I forgot to paint the tip of the cut ends, so you may see flashes of silver on my perches. I have some leftover stained roof pieces from my last birdhouse build, but I'm staining some more using Waverly Antique Wax. You can water this stuff down, but I'm using it full strength to prevent warping this wood and so it'll dry faster. I stained a variety of sizes for options. The amount of overhang for each of your roof pieces is up to you, but I like to secure these using some more super glue so I don't have to wait for them to dry. I like to use small tubes of super glue meant for attaching fingernails. This helps minimize waste since super glue does tend to dry in its bottle and you don't get to use all of it sometimes. The A-frame birdhouse is getting a roof from top to bottom. I attached the first piece with some overhang so I can use my emery board to sand it perfectly flush. I glued on the other piece too long so I can use my emery board to refine it and make a perfect point. Trying to cut and angle these two pieces would have been a nightmare, so it's so much easier to do it after the fact by sanding. I overlapped all of the roof pieces so I could sand them to be a perfect fit. This is a great shortcut to avoid measuring, but it still gives a clean result. Once all my roofs are sanded, I'm coming back in with some more dark wax from Waverly to do touch-ups. It's easier to do touch-ups rather than staining the full pieces in place, especially the undersides. Now for my favorite part, these birdhouses are coming alive using some nail art I bought from Temu. These particular stickers are super thin, so I'm using my craft knife to apply them. I'm trimming this sticker so it's a better fit in between the two side stickers. I also added a little front porch. I love the graphic nature of these evergreen trees against my cinnamon painted backdrop. I'm adding some of these cut out teeny tiny trees and trimming away the excess along the bottom of the birdhouse. This is the design I'm not so sure about. I gave this one a monochromatic look by adding some tone-on-tone flowers and some butterflies for contrast. Let me know if I should redo this one. For this pretty teal birdhouse, I used some pink and yellow flowers that don't have anything to do with the background color, but I think they coordinate nicely. I modified the stickers to make them taller. I'm using a water slide decal for the final birdhouse. You can give them a dunk, but I sprayed mine with a water bottle so the image will slide off the paper backing. The water slide decals are not sticky, so I stuck them on using some matte Mod Podge and then coated all of the birdhouses. The Mod Podge protects the paint and stickers and hides any shiny edges. Let me know which birdhouse is your favorite and consider joining my Patreon either as a free member or as a paying member for $3 a month. Check out this video to see the 5 original birdhouses I made. My faves are the A-frame, the yellow one, and the double hole pink one.